All right, so this section is all about being in a calorie deficit. So what does it mean to be in a calorie deficit? Well, a calorie deficit is anything short of the amount of calories consumed relative to the amount of calories required for maintenance of the current body weight. Okay. So a deficit is when you're eating less than what your body requires. Now, remember, so in general, that means like the calories that you're consuming is less than the amount of calories you're putting out, right? Calories in versus calories out. You've probably heard that before. Now, we calculated our BMR. And if you remember, our BMR is the number of calories required to keep our body functioning at sort of rest, our basic body functions, right? And so technically, if we just calculated our BMR, that means that number puts us in a caloric deficit because we are alive, we're moving, we have activity, we have stresses, we're doing things throughout our day, burning calories. So if we are going to eat the amount of our BMR, then that puts us in a caloric deficit, right? How much of a deficit does it put us in? Well, I don't really know because I don't know you. And so that's what we're going to test out. So it depends on your activity level. How much do you work out? How much are you moving throughout the day? Are you on your feet? Are you at a sitting job? How old are you? How is your metabolism, right? That's going to vary. How much stress do you have? How much sleep do you get, right? How well are you taking care of your body? All of those things are going to be dependent on how much of a deficit this puts you in. For me, for example, we found my BMR at about 1,400 calories. I can tell you that I eat closer to 2,000. And the reason that is because I'm very active. And when I'm active, I'm doing strength training, which burns more calories, right? My metabolism is relatively well. And to be honest, I'm quite stressed all the time, right? So my BMR puts me in a very steep deficit than what I'm used to. That number sort of scares me. You might be the opposite. Maybe you look at your BMR and you're like, oh, I already eat less than that. Or maybe it's like, yeah, that seems about right. Okay. So I don't know how much of a deficit that number is going to put you in, but it is generally a deficit because, again, that's kind of like you're resting without moving, without, doing your daily activities, things like that. Okay. Okay, so that's why I keep saying that the BMR is just a guide. It's a guide to start from so that we can start to test it and see if we're getting the results we're looking for, right? Because I like I said, I don't know you, I don't know your metabolism, I don't know what your lifestyle looks like. Most people don't. And so starting with your BMR, doing that for a week, which we'll do once we get into the program, you'll be able to better see what does that do to your body weight? What is that doing to the things in your life, right? Does eating that amount of calories equal weight loss? Does it equal weight gain? Are you maintaining? Does eating that much cause you to lose a lot of energy? Are you super tired, lethargic? Do you get headaches? Do you have any other negative symptoms, right? This number will give us a better idea of what it does to your body and how much you're actually burning so that we can then start to adjust it, all right? Okay, so I wanted to talk about some pros and cons of being in a deficit because people think, oh, I have to be in a deficit my whole life if I want to lose weight, right? So there are pros, and to be really honest and simple, the pros of being in a deficit is that you're probably going to lose weight and you'll probably lose some body fat, which is what many people want, right? Those are really good things. That's why we practice being in a deficit. However, there are cons to being in a deficit as well, especially if you are in it for too long. Being in a deficit can negatively affect your mood, your energy, the way that you recover, your menstrual cycles. If you're a woman, it can affect your hormones. It can put you in vitamin deficiencies. It can cause hair loss. It can cause stress. It can cause anxiety. It can cause many different things. If you're in a deficit, it can also, make it harder to stick with consistently, which I consider that a con because I think if something isn't sustainable, then then it's not sustainable and it's not going to be a lifestyle. And our goal at PACT is always to make things a lifestyle. So being in a deficit for too long can cause that, right? Because you're in a deficit for a week and then you're like, oh, it's the weekend, I just have to eat something more, and you end up binging, and then you're in this cycle, right? So that's a negative. And then finally, it can cause you to plateau or be in a quote unquote starvation mode. So I had a client one time say, yeah, I don't know what it is, but the only way I lose weight is if I only eat 900 calories a day. What that probably tells me is that, her metabolism is pretty shot, and that her body has been in starvation mode for quite some time because she starved herself and put herself in a deficit for way too long. And so her body's going to hold on to everything because it's scared that it's not going to get fed. So there's things that we can do about that that I'll go over in some other videos, such as reverse dieting to kind of boost your metabolism. But like I said, I just wanted to go through some of those pros and cons because I think they're all things to consider, right? There's not one size fits all. There's not one program or magic pill for everyone. And so it's important to consider when you're doing this, how long are you going to put yourself in a deficit? And make sure that you're doing it safely. Otherwise, you're just going to gain the weight back. If you're only, if you start this process and you go through the program and you're only eating 500-600 calories a day, sure, you'll lose the weight, but guess what's going to happen? You're going to gain it right back, right? How steep of a deficit are you going to put yourself in, right? We suggest that you never go lower than 10 to 15% lower than your BMR, okay? If you get too low below that, then that's going to, start to go into the plateaus or the weight gain or the starvation mode, things that I was talking about before, right? It's really important to consider having balance in all of this, right? In the food you're eating, how much water you're drinking, how much sleep you're getting, your stress levels, your activity levels, your lifestyle. It would be really dumb, in my opinion, to start tracking your macros, put yourself in a crazy deficit, tell yourself you're not going to eat sugar, and you're going to meal prep every single meal. If you're a mom and if you travel or if you have a job and your life is crazy like mine, it would not be smart to go that extreme because it's not going to be sustainable. So I encourage you that when you are going through this program, that you consider all of these things and that you stick with the guidelines that we're giving you, that you don't go lower than you need to in your BMR, and that you just practice this overall whole lifestyle of change, drinking appropriate amounts of water, fueling your food that's going to benefit you, staying active, so that we can make this a real lifestyle. Okay, so that's an overview of being in a deficit, the pros and cons of it, and I hope that helps as you start to get into adjusting your macros.